So, hello. I wish you a nice evening and welcome to my next workshop on writing and writing a novel. And the goal of this workshop is to continue what we did last week. Last week I started basically with research, how to start a new project, how to start a new novel, how to get the ideas, and always from the perspective of being oriented on what people actually want to read about. So it was all about keywords, about keyword research, and about thinking, okay, what are the major plot points, what are the characters, what is the theme, and what is the target audience. So that is what we did last time, and here we will just continue. And the goal of these workshops is simply, okay, to follow me along while I'm writing basically a novel. Maybe just if you're new to this channel, this channel was part of a meetup group where I do a regular weekly video, weekly workshop together with you in the chat about publishing, self-publishing, project management, writing non-fiction books and writing fiction books. And the last few times we did a lot about narration, about character motivation, and about how to do research on the market. Okay, and so if you have a question, I don't look regularly into the chat, but if you have a question or a comment, just add it. Okay, then let's look at where we left off last time. So, one moment. Zip. Okay, I do a full screen. So, last time we left with a whole list of keyword sections. So, just to get you back to the idea what this is about. So, this Excel sheet is provided by a tool called KDP Explorer, and that looks, or KDP Rocket, I think they changed the name. I'll show it quickly. And this looks like this, and you can do a keyword search. For example, the book I'm writing about is basically post-apocalyptic book. So the basic premise is, okay, there was a asteroid impact on Earth, and usually most novels or movies are about, okay, either it's total destructions or the hero saved the day and there is no impact. And this is basically something in between. So there was an impact, and of course, it has some consequences on the political landscape, on the different factions, and on the people's ideas about the future. And you're thrown into this world, and you follow along a set of characters. So that is the basic idea. And the keyword search engine here basically provides you an idea, okay, what are people currently buying on Amazon, and what are people currently searching on Amazon, and what about the competition on Amazon. So basically it's about exploring the market. I just call it like a job tool, because basically you can find your job for the next few months in terms of writing. You find, okay, where there is little competition and where there is a lot of searches by Amazon customers, and what is your competition in that regard. So for example, if you just enter post-apocalyptic, it does a quick search and it gives a number of alternatives, and we can just ask for the setting here. So there are a lot of competitors here, and well, average price, average monthly income, and there are 10,000 searches per month. So there are a lot of people interested in a topic, and a competitive score of 33. That's basically competitors divided by searches, and that is low competition, at least according to this one. But of course, the problem is there are many books about that, and here are a number of variations for that topic. So it's a topic that is searched for, and that's why I'm writing this book. And I find it also interesting to think about it. The idea is that it's a hard science fiction book. So we'll continue here. It's a hard science fiction book, post-apocalyptic, and I just threw in some planets and stars. And I thought about, okay, it needs at least a scientist if it's about hard science, and it needs some sort of wise person to follow what we talked about earlier in an earlier workshop about following the hero's journey. And maybe there is a mystery going on, so maybe we add some sort of mystery here, some sort of mystery story that is being explored by the detective, and maybe there are some other characters, but I don't have an idea yet. Maybe we'll explore it today. And here, plot theme, I just wrote a number of scenarios that could happen. It's a little bit much. I will explain why I have this variation in a moment. And we certainly have that asteroid impact we somehow have to discuss. And what I want to introduce is also talking about futuristic technologies. That's simply something I'm interested in. There are a lot of YouTube videos about it. So I thought, hey, that's a popular topic. Not sure about revolution or an explosion or something like that. So we'll see about that. Okay, we also have a story tone, so recession. So maybe economically it's not going that well. Not sure about the other. So maybe there's a war lingering. So there are like small skirmishes going on. That are going on, but there's no like really something going on, and I'm unsure about it. So maybe let's just ask our readers, our customers, if there is something like an interest in something like pre-war. I don't even know if that's something people will search for or not. Pre-war workout. Well. There's a pre-war Germany books, so before in Germany. So not much competition, at least here, but maybe pre-war stories or something, or books. So there's little competition, but also people are not searching for it. We can ask the tool to search for more items, but it doesn't want to. Okay, that's all it could find. So we look for pre-war books, although that could mean like books written before the war or something like that. Yeah, so this is basically a problem here. We just try to do. It's a tough sell. So what are we really selling to a customer or to a reader? Yeah, it's a pre-war story, pre-war or fraud. What is the what kind of story is that? So we can't just say, okay, it's a pre-war story. I mean, looking back, like before World War II, we have the Golden 20s. So maybe it's about that. But at the same time, we are in a recession, so it's not the Golden 20s, it's after the Golden 20s. So maybe it's a recession story. That's also problematic, but let's see what the database says. Recession book. Or maybe Great Recession. Well, at least there are some searches in that regard. So, and we're looking not for like a non-fiction book, but for a novel. So there's not much going on. So it's a tough topic So I'm not sure if this is something people really want to think or read about. Well, could be a recession book. So to understand better what people are actually buying, we can click here. Oops, can move it a little bit. We can click here on this one, and it will show actually what are people actually buying. So when we look at here the monthly sales, and it's recessional, that's some economy book. Recession proof, that's investing. Recession proof, so it's more like non-fiction books, okay, about recession proof, about preventing a recession, but it's not really like novels about the recession. And it's more like practical books. And it's all about like finance. So so this tool is really helpful in that regard. So instead of like spending months and months and months on a project, you do some preliminary research and wonder, okay, what are people actually buying when they search for a recession? So I would actually add here a big question mark if that is really something we're selling for. So maybe the story doesn't even require a recession or something like that. We would go into. It seems to be a tough market to really discuss. Okay. So what is the next? I mean, what I'm currently doing, maybe because you lost me in that regard. What I'm currently doing here with those keywords is really to test my own ideas. I mean, one test of my own idea would be to simply write the book and then try to market the book and then try to basically push books on people. But what I really want is to write a book where I have my ideas in there, where I'm enthusiastic about them. I mean, that is the starting idea that I started with hard science fiction. So I'm really want to talk about this one. So maybe let's do that in dark green. That's really something I'm passionate about. But I don't really need. I mean, the working book title is called Clouds of Venus, but I can change that. So I'm not. It doesn't have to be Venus. It could be Mars as well. So I maybe will think about, okay, maybe it's not Mars, or maybe it's not Venus, but it's Mars, and maybe it doesn't play on Earth, and not sure if it's actually in space or on the planet. So I leave that open. But I certainly want to have a perspective of a scientist in the book. An astronaut, not necessarily. So the question is, do we need an astronaut with all the lingo that goes with space travel? Not necessarily. But we want to have like a wise person that maybe helps the scientist to catch up on some things. And we're still open about the mystery story. Maybe that's too much that is going on. And we'll also leave that open. So that is also something I thought about. Maybe I'll explain briefly where I got this one. But let's move to the other one. So I certainly want to have that asteroid impact. I mean, that's fixed. That's simply the idea I had. I mean, it's not that creative. And I really want to talk about technological advances. But with everything else, I'm basically open. So maybe there is already a war, or there's pre-war or after a war. I'm open to that. So I would look more into what are people actually searching for. Maybe they search for story like 1920 or something, or mystery, science fiction. I could search more about this one. Okay. So we already had, okay, it's a hard science fiction book. It's a post-apocalyptic. It's about an asteroid impact, and I want to have have some technology advances. And if you look here, it's called here special situation and events. The technological technological advances are, of course, events, but it's more a plot theme, actually. So it's more about that the story of the book goes over many years, maybe, or looking back and reflecting on certain technological advances, and those are not really events. So that is something we want to keep there. I want to keep here. And those are more, well, those are not necessary plot themes, and this is basically too much. So if you have followed the workshop, you know that the book is basically a result of a game I'm currently working on, and all the research I did on the game stems from working on the game. So I did a lot of research for the game, and I am just now reusing it for a book and use both and maybe market both. So that is also an approach to do. So I'm basically creating a world, and within that world there are those stories and maybe the game. So just to get you briefly what the game is about. I'm currently creating a new trailer. I'll just show it. I'll just show it to you. And it's just 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. Some things are not yet up to date in the trailer, but it gives you a basic feeling what it is about. And I'll do some additional explaining. And this is basically my research, and that I really recommend, whatever book you're writing, that you take all that research and write it down. Basically build a world, because once you have built that world, you can very easily grab something about that world and put it into your novel, like a quote or information about how the world works. And you can also use that world information as a form of rule. That's what we discussed in one of the first few workshops. Because if your novel has some rules, and even if your nonfiction book follows certain rules, then it is a better experience for the reader, because it's not like surprising that something suddenly changes or so, but you really take the reader with you, because if the reader knows, okay, the world follows certain rules, then you build up tension, you build up suspense, because there are then stakes at play. Because if the reader knows, okay, you will break in this new situation, you will break the rule again, you do something and suddenly something happens, then there are no stakes for the characters. So really having done some research really helps. And I did a lot of research. I'll just show it to you in form of cards, because that is a card game. I mean, you don't have to create a card game for your book. But it's just one approach I did. So, well, maybe I'll start with the trailer. I think that's better. One moment. Zip. I just started. Can I do full screen here? Well, I'll just share it. So I'm using a free version of Bytable. That's just a tool where you can use a variety of video clips and sounds and music. And even if you don't like do a video game or a movie or something like that, it is recommended maybe just take a tool like Bytable and then create your book as a video first, or as a trailer for your video. I mean, you don't have to then describe each situation. You can just use the stock footage, and maybe to have a first for the viewer, have a first impression. And of course, you do have to do some writing to explain what's going on. But that is basically some sort of your storyboard, your background story, and it also delivers some insight into how this all could work together. And you could reuse that trailer simply for already doing some marketing at the beginning. Okay, and that is something I'm currently right in the middle of taking. So basically, you see here, if you have worked with a video editor, it's very easy. You just here you press add, and you can use any video. So they have hundreds or thousands of videos. I don't know, for example, asteroid, and you get a number of shots of asteroids, of planets, of scenes, etc. And you can just take it and it's directly and insert it if you want. And you can also add text. That is also easy, and you can select between different type of background music. So that's nice. So it's a tool for us to really find out if that story we have in our head could work out. And this one is just about, this is about the game, not the book, but it basically describes the background story. So I'll just, without further ado, I'll just start it. I hope this works. Yeah, it should work. Wait. Yeah, it should work. So, as you've seen, it's a little bit more dramatic. But you can of course use any theme for your video, for your book. And the important thing is that this is not like a plot point or something like that. Well, let's see the story around, but it's more like a theme. So for the actual plot, I mean, that is the theme about, okay, there are organizations, etc., and they do stuff, etc. But the actual plot would be, of course, about the character we are building that moves in that story, and that is the goal, to bring I mean, there's all in the trailer, all political and different factions, etc. But our goal is really, and if you remember the hero's journey, I'll just show it again. Yeah, here we go. No. Nope. All right. Just have to open. Yeah. So, if you remember the hero's journey, so we should create a character that starts out somewhere where the reader can connect. I mean, no one, let's say with Star Wars, no one is a droid repairman or something like that. But at least it's a relative simple life that Luke Skywalker lived at the beginning of the movie. And we have to do, we need a similar character, of course, to introduce all that complexity in terms of politics. And we have to be careful not to do all the exposition like that. I mean, we can use the trailer as an exposition to really introduce, okay, this was that about, but we shouldn't like start it out by someone talking a long time about what is the situation or what was going on or what's the situation. We have to assume the person or the character already knows all that and maybe make some remarks about that. Of course, there are some different approaches to that. I mean, Star Wars itself did that by having that scroller at the beginning, that scroll where it explains, okay, they are in conflict with the other party. Also, because that is of course difficult to also show. I mean, you can show some fleets or something like that, but to really explain the backstory, it's really hard to do it as part of a movie, and partly hard if you do it as a conversation. So in that regard, it might have been a good idea, and of course, it was a graphical effect. And a similar thing was done by by Dune, the old version, if you remember that. Yeah, here we go. Okay, right. Still advertisement. So I'll just switch it over. So you might remember that if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie, even though some people say it wasn't. So basically, they introduce the whole thing by introducing the entire world by someone talking directly into the camera and explaining it. So it's right talking directly to the reader or to the viewer.
A beginning is a very delicate time. Know then that it is the year 10,191. The known universe is ruled by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, my father.
Yeah, and so on and so on and so on. So I really recommend that. I think it's a great movie. I think has its flaws, but I think yeah, there were some great choices. But it's of course interesting that they start out with the exposition. There is even a TV version where they explain it even more, the backstory even more, and probably because of the budget, they used a drawn form. There's an extended version, yeah, where they explain the Dune backstory.
In the year 6041, before the reign of the Padishah emperors, universe was ruled by thinking machines with human minds, computers, and conscious robots. The people deteriorated into a state of apathy. Then they became victims and slaves of other men with machines.
So, of course, this is, of course, important for the watcher to view. I mean, you have some sort of narrator, but it puts you outside of the story, and it's better to find other ways. But it is something that all the different books or media are struggling with. So, and with Star Wars, they used a model of having a character where you can relate to, and this is something I also want to do. So we need someone that slowly introduces the world through interactions, through casual conversations, and we have to be careful never to put two people together and someone suddenly talks about some event everyone knows about, but they only talk about it so that the reader knows about it. So that is basically the challenge, to transport information to someone not part of the world by someone who already knows it. So that is a creative challenge all books basically have to face. And depending on the type of book, it is easier or not easy. I mean, the easiest way would be, okay, it's placed in the present and they already build up on things the person knows, or it is the change is happening while the characters interacting with the world. In my case, I'm deciding for, and maybe we'll also write that down. I'm deciding that the asteroid impact was basically in the past. So that is, well, maybe we do some. We'll do a new thing. So we'll just do then the plot here. So time goes in that direction, and so what at some point, I mean, we have basically the present world, but at some point there is an asteroid impact, and this asteroid impact has an effect on the structure of the world. I mean, or the power structure, power balance of the world, and the present world, and we have to put somewhere, and maybe there is a looming crisis at the end. So if nothing is done, so there's a looming crisis, maybe in form of a world war or something like that. So world war, question mark. So we still have to find out what that looming crisis is, and we have to put the character, so our main character, and the main character was a scientist. And because, I mean, that is the core. Okay, there are technologies that are going on. So we have here technological advances. They are basically going on all the time, maybe even starting from the present world. So we'll say, okay, they're going on, and those are simply individual things. So we have we have effect on the power balance, but first let's have the dust settle. So we have like the aftermath, what is happening directly afterward, but we have also an effect on the power balance of the world, and then what is happening with the different factions, different organizations, different different countries. So this is basically the framework. We have technological advances. This is on a different track, and we also need the character. So maybe the character has some backstory of the character. That is maybe a story we can do at the very beginning. So they do something, and before the asteroid impact, and after the asteroid impact, maybe they are in a different job. So different job, and they're doing something, and ideally they would be involved in preventing the crisis. I mean, that would be kind of a character arc. What is missing here is, of course, not character arc. That's a plot. What is missing is the character arc. So I thought about that there is some sort of failure, that they failed in their original job. They are now in a job where they get along, but they're not really confronting their fear of failure or something like that. So in their development is basically to get to terms with their failure that they had in their previous assignment or job, and get to terms with their failure, and then growing as a person out of that, and as a grown person, they apply their confidence to solving the problem. And that is a character arc. Another thing I mentioned last time is competency, is confidence in their abilities, and that is competency is let's say medium. They have something, and maybe high confidence, so they were overconfident, and now their competency, of course, remains the same after the failure, but their confidence is really low. So, and their goal is here really to process what is going on, and while processing it, they gain additional competency in their endeavor to become a better person, and then end up both as a competent person and with confidence. And that would be the main character. Of course, there will be supporting characters, and so that would be a main character. That would be the main character, and we also have a vice person, but that vice person will not change, or does he, or does she? And we have maybe some sort of side character. And of course, here's the question. I mean, in Star Wars, we have 3 characters with Leia, but she doesn't really change over time. Maybe she more accepts to be human, and not just be a politician or a leader, but also have people or have real friends. And we have Luke, who doesn't have much confidence or competency at the beginning, but becomes better. And we have Han, who is overconfident at the beginning, and then kind of stays that way throughout the thing. But he accepts, okay, he can't be always on the run, and some sort of stability he accepts. So about the side characters, I haven't made any decision yet. I have to think about that. If you have an idea, just write it. That is, of course, always a possibility. Okay, so let's check if we have everything and what we can do with it. So again, all this planning I find really important. I already started this novel like 2 years ago, but it didn't really go anywhere. So it basically you're just writing one scene after the other, but then you think, okay, I'm on and now. And with a better framework like I'm building now, I can really paint the picture before actually writing it, and that I think is super important. Okay. Okay, so let's look back at it. Wait. So. Okay, so we had that side character we still have to find. Well, maybe if you look back here, we had one thing open here about the settings and time period. So I think it would be good maybe to have 2 locations. So if it's a space adventure, science fiction space adventure, so maybe the main character is primarily in space. So it's space. So maybe let's say, okay, she or he starts out at Mars as a failure then, and in the aftermath, maybe she is assigned to Venus. Maybe she works there, whatever, and then she comes back to Earth. Maybe she also confronts why she never went back to Earth and stayed in space. Confronts why left Earth. So that we could also include. Okay, side character, again, I still have to think about it. So what about the looming crisis? I mean, what is going on in there? So my idea for the game, I can show you the cards for that. My idea for the game was that it is a game about technological advances. So you see the parallel. I'll just show it. Moment. Move it over. Okay. I have to return. Okay. So you see a lot of cards here. So each card you can basically pay a certain amount, and in the game you pay a certain amount of development costs, and you can get that card, and that card then has an effect on the game. And my idea was for each card to influence the political or public opinion in the game. And at the end of the game, when all cards are played, it reaches like a tipping point or turning point in sort of a revolution or some sort of special event. But I need to look at the other one actually. Wait a minute. That is this one. Okay. Yeah. So these are the, positive ones. So you heard in the video the 8 different factions, and the 8 different factions have different goals in the game. So one is, okay, asteroid hit the US, and they want to restore the US to its former state. The other one is, okay, they want to create an utopian commune to prevent all future wars. The other one is, okay, to control the world by finance. The other one, control the world by military. The other one, climate, to return Earth to its previous state. The other one is cybernetics, to create some sort of matrix and protect people through that. The other one is to clear up who didn't protect Earth that day. I mean, with the asteroid defense, and the other one said, "Okay, screw you guys. We're leaving on a colony ship." And as I said in the previous workshops, games are story creators. So with those 8 different factions and how they interact, so you can create many different stories. But we are now writing a single book, single novel. That means we have to decide, of course, for one of those many stories. And and as you've seen also in the trailer, those different factions are, of course, opposed against each other. So one thing that I find most interesting, well, it's I basically got that idea from the movie, from the series Who Dances or Dancing with the Wolves. That's about space priests, basically, about religion or religious people building robots and spaceships. So the idea was, okay, hey, there is not like a religious sect that doesn't want anything to do with technology or something like that, but the opposite. Those are basically fanatics who want to build spaceships to travel, to flee Earth, basically. And the opposite would be the people who want to stay on Earth and use the resources not to build a new space program, but to restore Earth, basically. And I mean, we have a similar narrative today with various people wanting to like build a colony on Mars or something like that. So we have something like that also today. And this would be one conflict. Another conflict would be to have the people who want to build a world government versus those who want to restore the US as a sovereign nation. I mean, you have many possible stories there, but you have to select one. And maybe we'll go with the spaceship one because we already started out with space and the idea. And that is also a nice conflict. If the main character who travels space would turn at the end against space travel, would be interesting to explore. I'm not sure if that works out yet or not, but I think it's an interesting idea to look at it from the other side, because usually, I mean, I like people like Carl Sagan, etc., who talk about space travel, etc., but I think it takes longer until we get there, and until we get there, we need to take care about the Earth. Well, that's my personal opinion about taking care about spaceship Earth, basically, before building own spaceship. So you see, it's already a lot of ideas, and we're kind of in the situation now after all this brainstorming about after having done all this research, to not fall into the trap of going into many different directions. So the next step, that we will do next time, the next step is to reduce a little bit and throw out ideas, especially about the plot theme. So I will do another search then what type of plots are searched for. Maybe we can do that. We can do that today, but we will continue here also next time. So we'll do as a final step for today, we'll look for those different plot themes. So we had I just type in I could do more in that regard, but I just type in the titles. So we had the Second American Revolution. Yeah, well, not really much. Then we had colony ship, build a colony ship. No, well, it's not that. Oops, well, you didn't see it. Not that. Well, no, not really popular. We had We had then, well, climate change. That's probably a lot more. Think did I already? Ah, yeah. I already did that search. There are some searches, but surprisingly not many, and very high competitive score. I did here climate change disaster novels. That this could be one. Well, there's no searches and no competition also, or nearly none. So these are difficult. Here I have to do additional research. What basically the what I will use here as a plot theme. Just to again remind you what this fiction word list, keyword list is about. So people generally look for one of those 5 ones. So some people maybe look for sci-fi military stories. They don't care about if it's science fiction. Well, of course, science fiction, but if it's hard science fiction, or if it's post-apocalyptic, or if it's on Earth or Venus, also they don't care about that. They care more about that it's certain aspects of these kinds of novels, or detective or mystery or something like that. And other people, they only search for hard science fiction story. They don't care if it's a military story or a detective story or something. They care about the hard science fiction part of it. And some look more for character types. They look some, I don't know, they look for a scientist or so, or a survivor, or a lone wolf story, and they actually search then for that term. And of course, for the plot theme, they look for specific plot items. Yeah, well, that is still to find out. Or special situations. Asteroid impact would be a clear. Someone says, "Oh, okay, I want to read a story about a asteroid impact or a revolution going on." And yeah, well, the story tone. So these are the words people are actually searching for, and we should, again, sure, as a writer, you should write your own story, but we should also respect what people want. And I'm completely fine with that, at least at this point in my writing career, where I say, okay, I want this and this and this element, but I'm okay with saying, okay, that is what the market want, and I use this element for the market. I still have enough freedoms in the rest of the story. Yeah. That is for today. Next time we will look again at those plot themes and maybe more about the second character we still have to figure out, and maybe can flesh out the first character. And then hopefully soon we actually look at my novel and see if I hit those marks, or if I didn't hit those marks, or where there's something actually missing in the novel. In that regard, thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time, where I will continue the work on my book, and we'll see. Currently I use like 2 hours each week, because it's kind of a side project, but my goal is to increase it. Maybe we can do then more streams. In this regard, if you have any questions, ideas, or you want to comment on, or if you want to present your own book or your own story, just message me and we can discuss it online and see maybe if other people have then comments for that. In that regard, thank you for watching, and we'll see us next time. Next Sunday, same time, 3 p.m. CT, or 9 o'clock in the evening in Middle Europe time. I think that's GMT +2. Okay, thank you and see you next time.